we were thinking to make it like interactive, like one kids have a VR inside somewhere, and then other people like classmates could have a AR with a phone. Help the one inside to have an interactive like. In
that's
that way,
very interesting.
Yeah. So, which story or which invention you think that could link a piece?
So they would help. Would they help them like answer questions or
Or find a trait or find a key information or something, or just help. For example, does Einstein have something to do with other award-winning piece, or their friend? Any link
Oh,
will have a design.
I mean, Einstein definitely theory of relativity. Roger Penrose. You could link to Einstein. Niels Bohr. You could link to Einstein, and I'm sure there's more. Otherwise, I would say you will get a lot out of Marie Curie probably.
Marie Curie.
Yeah,
Okay.
because of the 2 Nobel Prizes, you could always do something about how she was the first woman to receive it and how she was the first person to receive 2, and that whole story about the fact that at first she was discriminated against. They weren't going to give it to her until her husband said, "I will not take it if you don't also give it to her." So it's a good story that way. And then with her, you can link anything that has to do with radioactivity after that. So that means Nobel Prize laureate. That means I said this, but also any Nobel Prize laureates that gotten like for using gamma technology in healthcare and radiation therapy, cancers, anything that has to do with radium and radiation, you can link to Marie Curie, and that's a lot of Nobel Prizes. So I would say she is a really good one, and also because she's one of few women, so it's a good way to get that up. Respond very well generally to peace, I would say mostly, and it's because
What do you mean peace?
Like the Peace Prize.
Peace Prize.
Yeah, because it tends to be the one that gets people really, emotionally active, I would say. So then, like, I tend to focus more on the peace prizes. I maybe will talk about Mandela, for instance, and I'll talk about apartheid and the fact that the apartheid regime lasted for so long, up until the 90s, and that he fought against that racism and discrimination. And so then, because some kids now, they don't know about that. So then they realize it wasn't that long ago. And then I talk about other freedom fighters. I said Malala over here. I can talk about Shirin Ebadi, one of the first women judges in Iran. Wasn't allowed to keep her job because she was a woman. Became a human rights lawyer, became imprisoned for being a human rights lawyer and helping people in Iran. So I would say mostly with young people, peace is a good way to get them
Interested.
Yes. If you get people who are interested in sports, then I tend to focus on, or kids that come from like sports clubs, bicycle and the oar over there that was donated by Cambridge, I believe. So Cambridge and Oxford, they have every year like this competition between themselves to see who wins, a rowing competition. And so Cambridge had won it the most times, and so they decided to donate that to the museum and carve in all the names of everybody who went to that university who ended up receiving the Nobel Prize. But I definitely think, doing something interactive.
Can't remember. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So you have, of course, like Marie Curie, and you have radium, and without radium, radioactive, you wouldn't have, for instance, the X-ray. So that, of course, goes very well together. There are a lot of things you wouldn't have. Certain cancer research that people have gotten the Nobel Prize for. So you could definitely kind of puzzle pieces together. You have Nelly Sachs, she with the suitcase over there, who fled from, I believe, Germany to Sweden when she was persecuted as a Jewish woman. She came here due to another Nobel Prize laureate in literature, Selma Lagerlöf.
Okay.
So they are also linked. So I would definitely say you could definitely find ways of connecting people. Einstein, for instance, a lot of people, he met Marie Curie, he met Niels Bohr also, and all of his research with quantum mechanics, they knew each other. So yeah, I would say you have a lot that you could definitely enjoy the most.
Yes.
Olivia, we go to the middle.
Yeah.
I would say Barry Marshall, the one about the helicopter pylori and the gastric ulcers. That tends to be a story that people find interesting.
The one they swallowed.
Exactly, both of the swallowings.
Yeah.
People tend to find that very fascinating. I would say also, I didn't tell that story today, but the Randy Sheckman and the microscope over there. I tell the story about how he tried to save up for that long as a young boy, and his parents had to borrow money from him. He told the police officer. The police officer thought he was saying his parents were stealing, so he called the parents, the father had to come to the police station and get questions, and then they found out, okay, they weren't stealing, but the father felt bad for him, and he got his first microscope, and he kept that microscope for years. Didn't matter how successful he got, he still kept that until after he received the Nobel Prize, and he decided that this was a good time to leave it to inspire somebody else. I didn't want to cram all of us into that room, but if you feel like I didn't tell you enough about this man and his inventions of the dynamite, and you feel like you just want to know that much more about this incredible Swedish man, and also maybe know why we have the Nobel Prize in Peace, which we think is due to a woman called Berta von Suttner, who was a Peace Prize activist in the early 1900s. Do have a look there. You'll find all the answers that you want over there. And then to the right, we have a movie room. You just want to sit down, you don't want to read, you don't want to walk around, but you still want to know things. We have 40 movies here about Nobel Prize laureates that are really good. Mandela.